There comes a moment in every empath's journey when the well of forgiveness finally runs dry. It's not dramatic. There are no thunderclaps or breaking glass. Instead, it's quiet, like the last grain of sand falling through an hourglass, marking the end of an era you never thought would come. Carl Jung once said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But what happens when an empath, someone who has spent a lifetime understanding others, suddenly stops offering the gift they've given so freely? What happens when the one who always sees the hurt behind the anger finally says, "Enough"? The world changes. Not the external world. No, that remains the same chaotic dance of human drama. But something far more profound shifts. The invisible threads that once bound them to everyone else's pain begin to dissolve, and for the first time, perhaps in decades, they taste something foreign on their tongue, the bitter sweetness of their own boundaries. You see, empaths are the emotional architects of their relationships. They build bridges where others see only chasms. They offer understanding where others offer judgment. They forgive not because they're weak, but because they carry an almost supernatural ability to see the wounded child hiding behind every cruel adult. But there's a price for such vision. It's always a price. For years, maybe decades, they've been the safe harbor for every storm-tossed soul who crossed their path. They've been the translator for those who speak only in anger, the healer for those who wound without awareness, the lighthouse for those lost in their own darkness. And in all this giving, this endless pouring out of understanding and second chances, something insidious happens. They forget that they, too, are human. They forget that their own heart has limits, their own spirit has needs, their own soul requires tending. The day an empath stops forgiving isn't born from hatred. It's born from exhaustion. The deep, bone-weary exhaustion that comes from carrying everyone else's emotional baggage while neglecting their own. It begins with a small crack. Maybe it's the friend who disappears when you need support but expects your full attention during their latest crisis. Maybe it's the family member who takes your kindness for weakness, your understanding for permission to continue hurting you. Maybe it's the romantic partner who knows exactly which words will cut deepest, but uses them anyway, counting on your forgiveness to erase the damage. The crack spreads slowly at first. You find yourself pausing before you respond to that text, asking for help. You hesitate before offering the usual excuses for someone's behavior. You catch yourself thinking dangerous thoughts like, "But what about me?" And then, one day, without ceremony or announcement, you simply stop. You stop making excuses for the inexcusable. You stop translating cruelty into pain, behavior into childhood wounds, betrayal into fear. You stop being the eternal understander of everything except your own worth. This is when the masks begin to fall. How they fall. The friend who always needed your emotional labor suddenly reveals their true face when you're no longer available to provide it. The family member who counted on your endless forgiveness shows their manipulative core when you stop offering it. The partner who took your empathy for granted displays their entitlement when you finally withhold it. Jung understood this phenomenon deeply. He wrote about the shadow, the part of ourselves we hide, even from ourselves. But what happens when the light that usually casts those shadows, the empath's unconditional understanding, suddenly dims? The shadows have nowhere to hide. You begin to see people not as they could be, not as you hoped they might become, but as they actually are. It's a sobering revelation. Some will surprise you with their capacity for growth when faced with real consequences. Others will reveal depths of selfishness that your empathy had long concealed. The strangest part is how it feels. You might expect anger, but often there's just a profound sense of clarity. It's like taking off glasses you didn't know you were wearing. Glasses tinted with endless compassion that made every harsh reality look softer than it was. For the first time in perhaps your entire adult life, you see yourself clearly, too. You see how you used your empathy not just as a gift, but as a shield. how you focused so intently on understanding others that you never had to confront the uncomfortable truth that you were avoiding understanding yourself. You realized that in always being the forgiver, you never had to risk being vulnerable enough to need forgiveness yourself. In always being the understander, you never had to risk being misunderstood. In always being the one who stayed, you never had to risk being left. Your empathy, while genuine, had also been a kind of armor. An armor, no matter how beautifully crafted, is still a barrier between you and authentic connection. But here's where the real transformation begins. When an empath stops their automatic forgiveness, they don't become cold or heartless. Instead, they become discriminating. Their empathy doesn't disappear. It becomes precious, reserved for those who have earned it through their actions, not just their potential. They begin to understand the difference between empathy and enablement, between compassion and codependence, between forgiveness and doormat behavior. They learn that true forgiveness isn't the absence of boundaries, it's the presence of healthy ones. This shift is often met with resistance from those who benefited from the empath's previous patterns. Suddenly, the people who took their understanding for granted are faced with someone who expects reciprocity. Those who counted on endless second chances find themselves accountable for their choices. Some will call it selfishness. Others will say, "You've changed, become hard, lost your way." But deep in your bones, you know the truth. You haven't become less loving. You've become more discerning about where you place your love. Jung spoke of individuation, the process of integrating all parts of ourselves into a whole, authentic being. For the empath, this often means learning to extend to themselves the same compassion they've always given others. It means recognizing that their own emotional needs are not secondary to everyone else's. The day an empath stops automatic forgiveness is the day they begin true self-love. Not the shallow kind promoted in self-help slogans, but the deep, transformational love that says, "I am worthy of the same energy I give others. I am worthy of relationships that nourish rather than drain me." This awakening ripples through every relationship in their life. Some connections deepen, revealed to be built on genuine mutual care rather than one-sided emotional labor. Others fade away, exposed as transactional relationships that only existed because of what the empath provided. It can be a lonely time, this period of recalibration. You might find your social circle shrinking as people who were comfortable with the old dynamics drift away. But in that space, something beautiful happens. You create room for connections that are truly reciprocal, relationships where your empathy is appreciated rather than expected, where your forgiveness is meaningful because it's not automatic. You learn to trust your initial instincts about people. Those first impressions your empathetic heart used to override with benefit of doubt thinking. You discover that your intuition, when not clouded by the need to see good in everyone, is remarkably accurate. The empath who has stopped indiscriminate forgiveness becomes something new. A person who loves from fullness rather than emptiness, who gives from choice rather than compulsion, who understands others without losing themselves in the process. They learn that boundaries are not walls, they are gates. They can be open for those who treat the garden of your inner life with respect and closed to those who would trample your flowers underfoot. This transformation is not about becoming judgmental or hard-hearted. It's about becoming wise. It's about honoring the depth of your capacity to feel and understand by being selective about where you direct that precious energy. You begin to see forgiveness not as a reflex, but as a conscious choice. One that should be earned through genuine remorse, changed behavior, and demonstrated respect for your boundaries. You understand that withholding forgiveness from those who haven't earned it isn't cruel, it's honest. The masks continue to fall, not just from others, but from yourself too. You discover aspects of your personality that were hidden beneath layers of people-pleasing and emotional caretaking. You might be more assertive than you thought, more decisive, more comfortable with solitude. You realize that the person you were before, the one who forgave everything and everyone, wasn't your authentic self. That person was performing a role, playing a part in everyone else's story while neglecting to write their own. But this new version of yourself, this person who chooses carefully where to invest their empathy, this person who forgives when it's warranted and withholds it when it's not. This person is real in a way you haven't been in years. The beauty of this transformation is that it doesn't diminish your capacity for love. It enhances it. When you're no longer giving your energy to those who waste it, you have more to offer those who treasure it. Your relationships become deeper, more authentic, more nourishing for everyone involved. You discover that people respect boundaries. Those worth keeping in your life adjust their behavior when faced with clear expectations. They rise to meet your new standards because they value your presence in their lives, and those who don't. Those who push against your boundaries, who demand the old version of you, who can't accept this evolution. Their departure, while sometimes painful, creates space for better things to grow. The day an empath stops forgiving everything is the day they start honoring everything about themselves. It's the day they recognize that their sensitivity is not a burden to be managed, but a gift to be protected. It's the day they understand that their empathy is not a limitless resource, but a precious one that should be invested wisely. Jung believed that we cannot change anything until we accept it. For empaths, this means accepting that they deserve the same consideration they give others. It means accepting that their needs matter as much as anyone else's. It means accepting that love without boundaries is not love at all. It's self-abandonment. This acceptance doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a gradual awakening to your own worth and a slow recognition of the difference between compassion and self-sacrifice. But once it begins, there's no going back to the old way of being. You become a person who loves consciously, who forgives intentionally, who gives from overflow rather than emptiness. You become someone who knows that the highest form of empathy includes empathy for yourself. The world needs empaths, real ones, not martyrs, masquerading as sensitive souls. The world needs people who can feel deeply and love widely while still maintaining their own center, their own strength, their own sense of self. When an empath learns to balance their gift with wisdom, when they stop automatic forgiveness and begin conscious choice, they become a force for genuine healing in the world. Not the kind of healing that enables dysfunction, but the kind that promotes growth, accountability, and authentic connection. This is your invitation to that transformation, to honor your empathetic nature while also honoring your human needs, to offer your gifts wisely rather than indiscriminately, to forgive when it serves love and to withhold forgiveness when it serves growth. You are not responsible for managing everyone else's emotions, for understanding everyone else's behavior, for forgiving everyone else's mistakes. You are responsible for honoring your own heart, protecting your own energy, and creating relationships that nourish rather than deplete you. The day you stop forgiving everything is not the day you become less loving. It's the day you begin loving yourself enough to expect others to do the same. It's the day you recognize that your empathy is a treasure, not a burden, and treasures deserve to be guarded carefully. If this message touched you, if you recognize yourself in these words, if you're ready to honor both your empathetic gifts and your human needs, comment, "I choose conscious love." Let this be your declaration that you are worthy of the same energy you give so freely to others.